Hello, my name is Matt and I'm from Pond Megastore. Today we're going to discuss properly planning a natural earth bottom pond with the intention of enjoying wildlife. Now, if you have the size, space, and available water, there are many benefits of an earth bottom pond for wildlife versus pond lined with concrete or rubber liner. These kinds of waterproofing techniques not only prevent water from leaking out, but also hinder a natural pond's interaction with bottom mud. These interactions are complicated and not completely understood. Using bentonite clay to seal the pond would be considered more wildlife friendly. For example, a lot of wildlife like to bury themselves in the mud, like frogs and turtles when they overwinter. We water gardeners generally enjoy seeing nature and the ecosystems that surround us. Adding a water garden to a landscape is a great way to add more nature that is close up and personal. While many enjoy the sound of water and others drawn to the beauty of the water lilies and the fish, there are other ways that water gardens can be enjoyed. Attracting wildlife to your water garden is one of those ways, and it sometimes is overlooked. One word of caution: when building or revamping a pond where we intend for it to become a natural habitat, remember that certain animals like deer, turtles, muskrats, or carp may or may not be present there when we begin this project. It is especially important to consider a little temporary fencing of any newly planted areas to let plants get established and well anchored before any wildlife comes for a quick snack. Once plants are established, there are less problems with a turtle or a deer enjoying a few stems on your water lily. However, if they come one night when a plant can be too easily uprooted and the few leaves and roots that you have on arrival could be devoured in one setting, you may regret inviting wildlife to dinner. Most plants within about 8 weeks of being planted will be well rooted and begin to naturalize into the pond where you planted them, and around that time you can remove the protective fencing around the plants. Having an edge with some bog plants has many advantages. The edge can be very inviting for wildlife. These areas can have some open water and areas that are solid plants. There are many designs for combinations of diverse bog plants, with some of them serving as a filter that is built for that purpose. Some animals already adapted to this kind of habitat, such as frogs and many small fish. A natural edge is also great for prevention of erosion issues. Now, many water gardens already have a stream associated with them, which is perfect area for most kinds of birds to bathe and get a drink. Now, every bird in the neighborhood is going to be at that stream, almost guaranteed. Ponds created for wildlife are, for the most part, not appropriate for high-value fish like expensive koi. Many types of wildlife will dine on fish, and brightly colored fish are very susceptible to predation. The coloration of native fish makes them very well camouflaged. It is more difficult for a predator to see a fish with a green or dark dorsal aspect from above. The same holds true when a predator is looking at a fish with a light belly against a bright sky. And we have circumvented evolution by selecting brightly colored fish, thereby making our hand-selected fish more vulnerable to predation. The point is that the fish selected for wildlife ponds need to be either low-valued, brightly colored fish or native fish that are naturally camouflaged. So place those expensive fish in a pond that is designed for protecting these fish, not a natural wildlife pond. A wildlife or natural pond will change from one season to the next depending on the age, design, and variety of wildlife that the pond attracts. Anything that enters a pond will affect it in some way. An important design consideration is that a sloping edge that is incorporated around part or all of a water garden's perimeter. First, the sloping edge makes it possible to plant some shoreline plants, which prevent erosion by breaking up small waves in windy days. Second, the simple matter of having a sloped edge, as opposed to an edge that immediately drops off into deeper water, will allow wildlife to safely bathe, feed, or simply get a drink. Animals that accidentally fall into the water can climb out easily using the sloped edge. Some people feed their fish in this shallow water edge, which makes it more fun to view the fish and other wildlife. A lot of insects like honeybees and butterflies will come for a drink. Some shorebirds will wait around, hunting for small invertebrates. Now, these natural earthen ponds should not need any kind of sediment removal, at least for many years. The sediment buildup is part of the ecosystem, and the anaerobic action in the sediment will inhibit the growth of filamentous algae. The use of many kinds of plants is a critical component in a wildlife pond. Native plants will be much more attractive to the native wildlife in your area since they are adapted to each other. Non-natives may be more attractive to humans, but may not necessarily be useful for the local critters. Also, be incredibly careful with aggressive or invasive plants that will overgrow a pond unless they are in a pot or otherwise controlled. Cattails are a good example of aggressive plants. Cattails should need to be in a pot without holes or a restricted area built to contain them. However, they seed readily and can start showing up in new areas quickly. One lesser known great trick is you can actually drown many aquatic plants by continually cutting them below the waterline. It is not only lotus that can perish from this, but many cattails and other varieties. You may need to do this a couple times, but the patch you work on should quickly die off after a few trims below the water. Other excellent emergent plants that grow above the waterline will provide a habitat for many different types of insects, like dragonflies. Depending on your location, water hawthorn is excellent anywhere except the deep south, as it needs water to remain under 80 degrees, which most water will do in much of the USA. This is probably the longest blooming pond plant and certainly underutilized. In the hotter regions, do not pass up Moneywort, red Ludwigia, or lemon Bacopa for the edges of the pond. I will provide a complete list of these plants for you on our website below this video and put a link to that list under the YouTube video here so you can look at my recommendations. Plants that free float on the surface are a bad idea for large bodies of water. They sound quick and easy, and they can be very high maintenance. Free-floating plants are all tropical in nature. In warm water, they quickly overtake large ponds in summer and are a detriment to the area below them, blocking sunlight and oxygen below the water, sometimes ruining your ecosystem. If you live where there is a cold winter, the floating plants die and float dead on the water for up to a year as they break down slowly. And in southern states, where they do not freeze and die, they overgrow the entire pond and can be costly to eradicate, if not impossible in some circumstances. Submerged plants will be the home for many other types of invertebrates, providing more oxygen during the daytime hours to the water column due to their respiration underwater. These plants are sometimes called oxygenating plants, like Hornwort and Vallisneria, which are good in almost all regions of the United States. They will not be the complete answer to providing all the oxygen the pond needs, but they do help. They certainly help prevent algae and clean the water. They are also important for fish spawning and protection of baby fish fry. If you have an associated stream that will provide the rest of the oxygen to the water column that the ecosystem needs. The use of many different kinds of plants is a critical element in a natural pond where you won't mind enjoying the wildlife. Native plants will be much more attractive to the native wildlife in your area since they are adapted to each other. Non-natives may be more attractive to humans, but maybe not necessarily useful to the local wildlife. Rocks and logs that come out of the water will provide sun perches for many kinds of wildlife like turtles and even honeybees who stop to drink. This also provides a ramp to the outside edge of a pond where the edge is not sloped so that the wildlife that accidentally fell into the water can climb out. Birds and other creatures will come specifically to these shallow perch areas to get a drink and bathe. These elements also give the pond a more natural look. Hardy water lilies that may be the best for these ponds include Sunny Pink, Lemon Meringue, Miss Siam, Awesome, Maha Treasure, Virginalis, Molly Khan, Razzberry, Double Yellow, Cranberry, and Stephen Strawn. Wildlife ponds are an adventure in watching nature at its finest. Every pond will be different. Letting nature take its course is both effortless and enjoyable learning experience. Now, you can plant most plants anytime after your last frost date, and it's best to plant at least 8 weeks before first frost so plants can acclimate and go into dormancy for winter properly. The earlier you can plant before frost, the better, as you also need to consider tender new plants are an easy snack for some wildlife. Getting them established is important. In many instances, customers assume a late planting did not simply survive the winter due to cold. However, the real reason is the plant was not very well established, and it doesn't take long to be consumed as a juvenile young plant. Remember that temporary fencing when planting. Now, if you have questions about the native plants, heavy blooming plants, or water lilies best suited for your region of the USA, please let us know by sending an email or using the Contact Us button at pondmegastore.com. When you order plants from Pond Megastore Nurseries, we will be sharing our planting and growing guides. In earth bottom ponds, you can usually simply avoid choosing a planting container and plant the plants at the same depth the guide recommends directly into the earth bottom rather than in a container. If you have questions about other water lilies or pond plants, please let us know by sending an email to pondquestions@gmail.com or using the Contact Us button at pondmegastore.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful time with your garden, and you can watch some more videos right now.